Bitcoin is ready for some huge moves today, and this is how you should prepare yourself. Today we have the CPI data release at 2:30 p.m. and at 8 p.m. Central European time we have the FOMC meeting, so we are up for some massive volatility. And when we look at this chart, it remains very simple. We have a high time frame range with range pivot 1, range pivot 2, range pivot 3, and range pivot number 4, which is the all-time high for a range high. Look at how the range levels are all getting respected very well, guys. Mid-range constantly getting respected as support, as resistance, right? As support over here. Quarterly level constantly getting respected as resistance, as support, and the lower quarterly level constantly getting respected as resistance and as support as well. Now, in my opinion, there's two different scenarios that I'm willing to trade on Bitcoin. The first scenario, guys, is still my preferred scenario, which is the breaker block that we have over here, right? The supply that led to the impulse to the downside over here that I'm going to mark out right now. It gave us that impulse to the downside right over here. That impulse, that supply, kept the price once, twice, and over here, as explained, we displaced above that supply, turning it into a demand area, into a bullish breaker block, since we have that bullish fair value gap on the 4-hourly time frame, exactly aligning with that breaker block. Now, if we get a test of this area, we have ourselves a clean invalidation over here. Okay, so clean invalidation for a potential stop loss and for a potential swing long. If we are going to sweep the liquidity that is still resting beneath this low into this bullish breaker block, we have ourselves a very clean execution with the entry at the top of the breaker or right beneath the sweep of the liquidity low. We have a very clean invalidation, as I said, beneath that range low liquidity sweep and that range low retest. And we have a very clean draw liquidity, which is the range high liquidity pool over here, which is also a new all-time high. Now, this also is pretty much in confluence with a potential psychology scenario in which we maybe get a little bit of bad news around the CPI event or a little bit of bad news around the FOMC event. And that bad news leads to a dump on Bitcoin, in which the price is going to dump exactly in towards our entry. People get extremely bearish near high time frame support. This is where we bottom out and we pump it towards range high to wreck the most people. This is scenario number 1. Now, scenario number 2 is a scenario a little bit more locally, in which we are sweeping important sales liquidity first of all over here, right? We definitely had some sales liquidity resting beneath this low. Now we are testing the mid-range area, in which potentially we are going to deviate beneath the mid-range, reclaim it in confluence with the break of structure, play the higher low and pump it towards the range high. Very simple play. This is the mid-range entry model play, guys, in which we are potentially forming a lower high over here. Now, what I would be waiting for is one more sweep of the local low, okay, in order to get to an execution. And you have to realize, guys, there's always the possibility where Bitcoin has already bottomed and is going to pump from here. That possibility is there, and we can definitely not rule that out of the question. But in order to get to an actual execution of a trade, we always want to play the highest probability trades possible, but also the highest probability execution possible. Now, in my opinion, to get to a high probability execution over here, I need one more local bullish liquidity sweep, followed by a reclaim of the mid-range that is going to confirm this deviation in confluence with the break of structure over here, and then play the higher low. Now, if we are not going to get this bullish liquidity sweep over here, the highs over here will never become significant. Now we are going to get that bullish liquidity sweep and do form a lower low compared to this low that brought us to that high. The high over here, the highs over here become significant to break because they bring us to a fresh low compared to this low that brought us to that high. Now if we then get a break of structure, and with the break of structure, you should know by now, a wick above that high is not enough. A candle close above that high is not enough. No, we need a candle open and a candle close above that significant high to call it a valid break of structure. Now get the break of structure, confirm the deviation, and we have ourselves a long trigger over here to target the range high liquidity pool. In that case, the setup would look something like this: entry, stop loss beneath the local low, target range high liquidity pool. Also offers a similar RR of 2. Both equally probable of playing out, both A+ setups, both high probability setups. Now we just have to wait and see if price is going to offer a potential execution. But in my opinion, The focus should rather be on altcoins. They are cheaper, and in the next phase of the cycle, it will start outperforming Bitcoin. Right now, I will provide you guys with 2 different trade ideas on 2 different altcoins. Let's see what we get. The first one is RNDR, guys, and this is an altcoin that I'm already building a potential swing long on. Now, this is VIP information only, but there's another trade idea that is being developed currently on RNDR. Because what we can see is that we had this previous range over here on RNDR. Let me quickly remove the quarterly levels. Let's just play it off with this range. What we can see is that we have a dozen of pivots over here for the range low. It's crazy. I think we have around 10 pivots for the range low level. We have this level for the range high, a deviation, and a sweep of the range high leads to a move towards the range low liquidity pool, and we break down. Now we know that if price is truly bearish after a breakdown of the range low, just like when price is truly bullish after a breakout of the range high, it doesn't offer perfect retest. Now what we were seeing over here after it broke down is that it did offer a perfect retest of the range low, and it did form a lower low. Now get into the mind of the retail trader. What is going to happen after such a perfect retest of the range low and a fake break of structure to the downside? Retail traders get extremely bearish. They start breakdown shorting the price with their invalidation above the perfect retest, targeting lower levels for RNDR, for example, the bottom of this week, right? Or they start shorting the pullback over here with their stop loss, for example, above this high. Now, we know that these perfect retests, they wouldn't occur if price was truly bearish. Instead, if price was truly bearish, it would break down, consolidate, and break down further. Now, this means that we have created a significant high over here on the 1 hourly time frame. This is a significant high. Why? Because it brings us to a fresh low over here compared to this low, but also this high, making it a significant high to break. We can also see that the EMAs on the 1 hourly time frame are aligning very, very nice. The EMAs on the 2 hourly time frame are aligning beautiful with the previous range low, and the EMAs on the 4 hourly are also perfectly aligning with the range low. So what are we looking at? A potential deviation of the range low, right? A very clean trigger exactly aligning with that range low, which is this significant high in the market structure break over here, right? We have the EMAs as confluence. We have a very clear draw on liquidity with a new all-time high over here for RNDR, which is still one of the stronger altcoins out there. So right now, the plan for RNDR is super simple. Reclaim the range low, open and close a candle above the significant high over here, and we have ourselves a long trigger. Push up, reclaim, break structure, long the pullback over here, in towards the range low level, pump it towards new all-time highs. Entry, a little bit above the range low because we don't want to get front run. Stop loss beneath the local low, and target a new all-time high. And look at the RR that it offers us. It offers us a beautiful RR of 2.28. This is a high probability swing trade, so we can potentially use 2% risk on this trade and potentially massively profit along the way up. This is a beautiful swing trade that is potentially being developed on the RNDR price. But still, once again, before we execute this trade, guys, we need one more trigger, which is the reclaim of the range low to confirm the deviation in confluence with the break of structure on the 4 hourly time frame. So candle open and a candle close above that significant high. Not a wick above, not a candle close above, no, a candle open and a candle close above that significant high. They brought us to that lower low. Compared to that low, they brought us to that high. If we get the trigger, we have a high probability trade setup towards new all-time highs for RNDR. Now the next trade idea is on INJ. In INJ, we can see that the higher time frame is looking like a potential PO3 also. Range, manipulation, before potential expansion towards the upside. Now that means that we want to potentially execute a trade inside of the deviation area to potentially profit along the way up during the expansion phase. That means that when we look at a current local potential reaccumulation range, there's something interesting going on. Because we have a range, right? With range pivot 1 over here, range pivot 2, range pivot 3. A deviation of the range low leads towards expansion towards the range high liquidity pool. Now, what we were seeing around that range high liquidity pool was once again a deviation. That deviation around the range high led to a sweep on most exchanges, not on my exchange on Woo, so my long that I accumulated over here with my invalidation over here is still running for now. It still survived. On other exchanges, some people got stopped out. Now, but this is still interesting, this local bullish liquidity sweep. Because this local bullish liquidity sweep, alongside the price action that we were seeing over here, with this sweep, this fresh high compared to this high that brought us to this low, making this low an interesting liquidity low, push down, take out the liquidity, and by making a fresh low over here compared to this low and this low, this high that brings us to this low becomes very significant. When we map out that high, what can we see when mapping out that high? That high exactly aligns indeed with the range high of the reaccumulation range. And now those are the kind of confluences that we are looking for to potentially execute trades. What is very bullish to me as well is that potentially INJ is flipping this previous bearish fair value gap. And that is super, super bullish to me. All right? Which means that I need one more trigger to execute a potential breakout trade out of this reaccumulation range, right? We know that we prefer to trade deviations, but we also have breakout trading models. Now that means that if we are going to open and close a candle above this significant high, which is once again our trigger, the market structure break, and in confluence also break out above the range high level, we have ourselves a trigger to start looking for longs, because we have a very clean invalidation beneath that mid-range liquidity sweep, right? We flip the bearish fair value gap over here, right? Get the market structure break of that significant high, and we have the higher time frame alignment with the drawn liquidity being over here, drawn liquidity being over here, and the drawn liquidity being over here. Which means that if we are going to break out above that high and open and close a candle above that high, we don't play this perfect retest. Get it into your mind. We can only play this perfect retest if the price is going to form a valid inducement above that obvious key range level. By valid inducement, I mean a front run, fake break of structure afterwards. This fake break of structure is engineering liquidity beneath that low, and that liquidity that is being engineered beneath that low makes it a valid inducement. Now, if we sweep that low into that range level, then we can play the perfect retest of the range level, invalidation, and as a target, a new all-time high for INJ. And that offers a beautiful RR of 5.22. Now, the second way of executing this trade, next to the perfect retest, only upon a valid inducement, but the second way of executing this trade is break of structure, anticipate a smaller deviation below the range high level, ladder in limit long orders over here, okay, invalidation over here, target higher levels, okay? Anticipated smaller deviation below that range high by laddering in 2 or 3 limit orders, right? Identify areas of support or resistance, entry, invalidation, and new all-time highs as a target. So right now, I've provided you guys with analysis on Bitcoin, analysis on RNDR and on INJ. I've provided you guys with potential trade ideas on Bitcoin, RNDR, and on INJ. All that we need is patience. All that we need is a few more triggers, a few more price action moves in order to execute some more trades. Besides Forex and commodity trading, PrimeXPT has now also introduced crypto futures trading. So you can now also trade Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the numerous amounts of altcoins. Next to the fact that I think that PrimeXPT to trade Forex and commodities with your own funds instead of trading at prop firms like Private Funded, I think PrimeXPT is the best place to do so. Make sure to sign up with the link down below in the description to receive a 7% deposit bonus.